Because like, what are we doing to ourselves when you think about it? Because you're like, what if somebody finds it? Where did I hide that? I can't find it. And then you start trying to live too many different lives with too many different people, and you're wearing all these different masks. And then you start to get caught up in your own lies, right? Because you're lying to hide the addiction, right?
That is tough to hear. How on earth did you reverse it? People are dying to know. How did you do it?
Hey, everybody, this is Will Gordon from the Willpower Podcast, briefly coming on before this next excellent episode to remind you all that did you know that 76%, you heard that right, 76% of you that follow my content regularly have not subscribed to my channel yet. And I'm really wondering why that is. So if you could, the easiest and freest way to help support my show is to hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of it. Like it, share it, send it to people that you think it might help. Because that's what I'm doing here. I've been through it. I lost my liver. I lost my kidney. I had such a severe alcohol addiction that I feel you. Okay. I understand what you're going through. And I'm really hoping that these stories are helping. So if you want to hear these stories keep coming, then please hit that subscribe button. It'll be the best decision that you'll ever make. Thank you so much for supporting me. And I really hope you enjoyed this next episode. I heard it was a pretty good one. Take care, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a very excellent episode of the Willpower Podcast. Today, guys, is a very similar episode to the one that I did with Aaron in the sense that we're talking with someone who is undergoing liver failure right now, but she's on the mend and she's willing to share her story. Today's guest is Philippa. I almost died drinking. My guest today almost died drinking. Doctors gave me weeks. They gave her weeks. We're both still here. There's no motivational quotes. There's no sugarcoating this episode. Okay, guys, there's just two people who were supposed to be, let's be quite frank here, not here anymore, but we're still here. And we're going to talk about something very serious, but also very helpful, hopefully today. So Philippa, how are you today? Welcome to the Willpower Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that you are willing and able to come on the show today, because I think it's going to be a really great, powerful conversation that it's going to help a lot of people out there struggling.
I hope so. Yeah, that's kind of my point in sharing my story is I want to help other people see
Yeah,
that
and
they're
I'm just
not the only ones, and we've been there
yeah.
too, you know?
Yeah, we both have been there, and this is a really hard subject to talk about. And I know you haven't shared it that openly yet. So I'm just so thankful that you are willing to do that on the Willpower Podcast. So thank you so much. So Philippa, take me back to the very last drink you ever had, and what did that moment feel like to you?
Oh gosh. Okay. It's very clear for me. I had gone in for blood work on April the 1st, April Fool's Day,
Mhm.
because I had turned completely yellow. My sister had been over at my house and with my niece, who was only under 6 months old. And my sister looked at me and she was like, "Can you go get your blood checked?" And I was like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "You're turning yellow." And I had noticed there's more to that. I had noticed it at my parents' house, but I was still brushing things off. And so I said to her, "Okay." So my partner at the time took me to get my blood work done, and it came back on a weekend on April 2nd, I believe, like the next day. My doctor called me at home from her home on her day off, and she said, "I think you're going into liver failure." And I was at home. This is the drinking a White Claw, because at that time knew I was dying and I knew I was unwell and I was trying to taper, but I was still drinking. And I was drinking a White Claw, and she said, "You should really go to the hospital tonight." She said, "Pack a bag, go to the hospital that I went to because they specialize in liver transplants. I don't think you'll be leaving for a while."
Wow.
And I said, "Do I have to go tonight?" And she said, "I highly recommend that you do." And I waited 24 hours and I finished the White Claws that I had. And I think I might have still had some vodka in the fridge. So I drank that day. I wanted to have that day to still keep drinking, even though could see the blood work and I knew I was completely yellow at that point. But that was the last time that I took a drink
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for
on that
sharing that.
day, April 2nd,
Yeah. April 2nd of 2020.
22.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're how many years sober now? You're three,
Three
four,
and a
five,
half.
3.5. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're actually very similar. So we actually have very similar timelines going through liver failure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're
Yes.
actually on the same timeline here. Uh, Now let's back up a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your drinking history, like your story?
So in my early 20s, I would say I was buying coolers and wine. My parents also always had wine in the house. They made wine. So I would like steal their alcohol all the time.
They made their own
um
wine. Wow.
yes, they did. And that, I mean, I don't even know how good it was, but I didn't really care, right?
Right.
And then I would actually like hide all my bottles in a big garbage bag, and then when nobody was home I'd take them out, right? So I developed a problem before I had even moved out of my parents' home. But then when I was 28, I moved in with a partner. And after that, when I was away from my family and more just with that person and getting into my career, actually, I started, I had a free for all. I could bring home whatever I wanted. My partner didn't judge me. I was wanting to drink. And so it got worse then. So that was around 28. It started out as like coolers, beer, a bottle of wine, but then it progressed over time to I'd always have a box of wine in the fridge and a 2 sticks of vodka in the freezer and coolers. And then
Yeah.
I gave up the coolers at one point and it was just the wine and the vodka. And then eventually I was going for the vodka first, right?
Yeah.
So it progressed and progressed. And I would say it got really, really bad in the last 3 years before I got hospitalized, where I was drinking to a point where um, I would get home from work at 3:34 and I'd just start drinking. Like,
Mm,
and I I didn't have much of a social life. I was self-isolating. My partner didn't come home from work until 6, so didn't know how much I drank. I might even ask him to bring me home some alcohol on the way home, and then I would get up, go to work in the morning, stay sober for the day, come home and repeat the pattern. Now, part of the reason why I was able to do this so long as well
hmm
is because I have a long history of anxiety. So I always had a prescription for lorazepam, which is Ativan, and it's a
Yep.
sedative. So every few days, if I had something that was anxiety provoking, I could take one and sort of not drink a little or drink a little bit less, right?
hmm
But it never, like, I always explain my drinking as like if I could be drinking, I was. I was drinking more often than I wasn't. Basically wasn't drinking when I was sleeping or working, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You and I are so similar. I was doing the exact same thing. The only time I wasn't drinking when it was like when I was asleep. That's how it
Yeah.
felt for me too. Oh my goodness. So from the ages all the way up till 28, there really wasn't that much of an issue, huh?
I knew it was too much because I was hiding it and hoarding it out of my parents' house.
Right, right, right.
But it wasn't, I might do that, like, I might collect bottles for 2 months, you know what I mean? Like, whereas at the end, like, it was bottles and bottles, like, but it was an issue for sure. Like, I would again, though, I'd come home after my work and I would drink in the evenings, and it was very accepted in my family too. My mom actually got sober after what happened with my liver. My dad decreased his drinking. One of my aunts got sober as well. So it's actually had an impact on my family, but it was a big part of our family. And so, but I knew that even my drinking was more than what my family was doing, right? So I was still
Yeah,
hiding. And
yeah,
it is such a disease where you keep secrets, right? That
yeah.
it just becomes natural to hide it and move along. I think there's also this like piece where you think nobody can tell what's going on, but they know. They know exactly what's going on, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like wishful thinking on our end. We hope that no one understands or can notice what's going on. But, especially when our skin starts changing pigment and our eyes start getting darker and yellower, then it's pretty obvious, right? And it's really scary. What was going on? Like, so there's so much going on in your story here that I'm so fascinated in, and I really want to talk about everything. So I'm just trying to organize all the thoughts in my head as they're coming up. But to get to liver failure, you were drinking easily every day. And obviously
Oh
there
yeah.
was a reason behind that. And I'm just really curious, like, is that something that you've explored? Is that something you're mindful of? Or is that something that you're still kind of working out, like the process of like figuring out what was going on?
Yeah. Um, I've yeah, I have a pretty good idea. Um, I have always had, like my mom says, since I was born, I came out like a baby that was like shaking with anxiety.
Mm.
So since a little baby, I've had anxiety. Now, drinking actually makes anxiety worse. If you're sober, you know, right? It actually you start drinking because you think it's going to help, and then it actually ends up making it way worse. So I had that in my history, and then but I had a good family upbringing, but I have always had these body image issues and sort of a hard time accepting myself as beautiful or um let's what's the word I'm looking for? Like I had this like people pleasing wanting to do and also like this being so terrified to hurt anybody, and I don't know where that came from. I am looking at, I mean, I think some of the way that, and I'm not blaming my parents, but the way I was brought up possibly could have contributed to it. And we've talked about it. They think so as well, parenting styles and attachment styles and things like that. But I got very, very conscious about what I looked like, what I did, how I spoke. But then, so I started to drink to self medicate that, right?
Hmm.
But I didn't have any, like, serious, like, standout traumatic event. I think I was just I've been clinically depressed for gosh, at one point I was on 3 different antidepressants, like, that was when I was in my early 20s. So, I think I just somehow, I got into this hole, and then because I was so, like, worried about what people would think about me, I would isolate, and I would ask my husband to go out, my partner at the time, and buy alcohol for me. And like, it just developed into this chronic cycle of like self isolation. And like, I pushed away my friends and my family. And then, yeah, like there was a point where I was going out with friends and drinking, but then I became the friend that like they had to take care of all the time too. That was another piece of it. Like, nobody wants to deal with that. So I got separation, not from all of my friends, but from many of them. And
Hmm.
then I changed friend circles and did start hanging out with people who drank more.
Right.
Anyways, it's sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but yeah, I
No,
don't
no,
really
no.
have any
Well, the
specifics
reason,
other than
yeah, the reason why I ask, Philippa, is like I know what you're talking about because I did it too. I lost my friends. They started to push me away because I started to drink more and more, and then do things that were, I don't know, just they didn't enjoy. They didn't want to have to take care of me anymore, right? My folks, they drank too, and in the way I was brought up, and youngest of 4 boys, like very competitive. So there's all these like factors at play that make you like a people pleaser, like all these things that you're naming, like people pleasing, losing friendships. All of a sudden, you start changing your friendships to find other groups to kind of fit your alcoholism, right? And so there's just so many similarities to our story, and there are so many common threads with like these ideas of low self-worth, people pleasing, wanting to not really know what's going on in you, and like the antidepressants, like which I was on too. I was trying those as well, but alcohol
Mhm.
would immediately fix it. But you're right, it would just exponentially make things way worse down the line. And then you have to rev up your drinking just to kind of stay at that, right, at that base. So talk about
Yes.
that. Like what was that like for you? Like what was like the hitting that tolerance, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm drinking so much and I'm not like dying right now.
Yeah, so that I think when I hit a tolerance too, is when I really developed, like, I can't go anywhere without a confirmation there's gonna be alcohol.
Right.
Or bringing some and hiding it, or like trips, even just like short trips, like, or like day trip, like to go somewhere if there wasn't like going to be drinks at lunch, or like because I couldn't handle getting through like a weekend day without it, right? I'll share this. I went to like I was very high functioning. I completed uh a psychology degree, an education degree, a master's degree specialized in blindness and visual impairment, all
Wow.
while being an active alcoholic.
Mhm.
And in my master's degree, I actually paid to live on campus in the summers when we had to be on campus,
Mhm.
because I was like, I can't drive all the way out there because I wouldn't drive drunk. Like, I had these like certain morals and things that even though I was a raging alcoholic, I wouldn't do. I wouldn't drink on the job. I wouldn't drive drunk. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? It's so funny. I
Yeah.
don't know why I had those ideas. I
Same,
wouldn't have
same,
kids because I knew I could possibly harm them.
same.
Um, but I would manipulate the heck out of a situation so I could go live on campus and have my bottles of vodka in my room so I could I will say I would take a shot in the morning before I went to class sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Like, because I was just going to class. I didn't care.
Right.
But
Hey,
like,
well, yeah,
that's
well,
not okay. Like when
yeah.
you think about it, like I'm there to learn so I can teach. And I did. Like I successfully I got straight A's in all my courses. I learned Braille. Like I learned Braille. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, it
Yet
is not.
I found a way to do it, but still bring my addiction with me, right?
Yeah, you were like living two lives. Like, on paper, you're this, very well accomplished. You're a teacher. You got all your ducks in the row. But on the other end of it,
Mm.
you're slowly just dying on the inside, and you're putting on these different faces to kind of, save face to the people around you that you don't want knowing. I've been down that road. It's really scary. When
Mhm.
you started to notice When did you start to notice that all of a sudden, like, your drinking was just becoming unmanageable? Like, there was just a point of no return.
I was getting where I couldn't keep food down.
Mhm.
I had extreme fatigue. Like I had to started having to take days off of work because I
Yeah.
was so exhausted. And then some of those days I'd end up drinking, right? And I was nauseous when I would take any kind of a medication. And then I know that like my anxiety was still starting to peak, but I was at like I couldn't drink any more than what I was drinking. Like I was drinking a lot. And I don't have exact measurements, but at least a half a 2-6 plus probably half a box of wine and some coolers every day. Like that's what I don't know how many drinks that is, but I think I also intentionally didn't track it because I didn't want to know in my head, you
Yeah.
know? But I was buying those like both of those things every 2 days, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's quite a
Wow.
bit.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is now affecting my work a bit because I'm too tired to work. It was affecting my going out to see my family or like some Christmas events and different things. I was having a hard time breathing. That was starting, and doing exercise started to get really hard too. And I was like, okay, but I didn't want to change the drinking component of anything, right?
Yeah.
And then a doctor tried to prescribe me another antidepressant because of my anxiety. And my liver was so bad, I couldn't keep it down. So I tried taking it for a couple weeks and I would just vomit every time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I realized like my liver is not handling things anymore. And then, of course, my eyes, I went yellow, right? So,
Right.
but I had also been at a point where I'd stopped even looking at myself in the mirror. Like I hated myself.
Yeah.
And in the program of recovery I went through, one of my friends said to me, she said, I've never met somebody that's as self deprecating as you are. She's like, you are the hardest person on themselves I've ever met. And I'm still working
I'm
myself
curious.
out of that.
Yeah, I wonder why she said that. What was the reasoning behind that, you think?
I think whatever situation happens, I will try to find like that it's my fault or like I've done wrong, even if I've had nothing to do with it. And I have negative self-talk that I used to do. And
Mm,
like a lot of things, like I didn't think my opinions mattered. Like I
yeah.
wouldn't voice them because I just thought, oh, nobody's going to care. And like, just again, like I'm really low self-esteem, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
same, same. It's such a strange pattern, right? People like us with low self esteem, it seems we seem to get in these troubles. Addiction is just very easy for us to fall into because the freeing nature of alcoholism and how it lowers your inhibitions and makes you just feel like normal just for that little bit of respite, a couple hours or whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
I craved that. It was like it was everything to me. I was just like you. I couldn't leave the home without knowing that I had alcohol somewhere hidden 9 times out of 10 in my car, whether it be under the seats, in my golf
Mhm.
bag, my hockey bag, whatever, just like in very strategic spots. I'm really curious about that part of your story about the hiding it because this is the part of the story I feel like is really helpful for people watching and listening because once you start hiding it, that is a major red flag that this is now becoming an issue that you're not even willing to admit to yourself because you're hiding it on yourself. to enjoy it,
Mhm.
right? Not even enjoy it, just to survive. So when you started hiding it, like, what was that like? Like, how did that make you feel?
I mean, it gave me anxiety,
I bet. It's a
right?
lot of
Because
work.
you're always it is, like, what are we doing to ourselves when you think about it? Because 'Cause you're like, "What if somebody finds it? Where did I hide that? I can't find it."
Where did I hide it?
And then you start trying to live too many different lives with too many different people, and you're wearing all these different masks, and then you start to get caught up in your own lies, right? Because 'Cause you're lying to hide the addiction, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, for me, was, like, stressful.
And God forbid someone call you out on you're drinking too much, or call you out on anything
Yeah,
relative to your alcoholism, because then we start to
yeah,
push back. That's when, like, we get, well, I'm putting words in your mouth. At least for me, like, I would get so defensive, I would just deflect whenever anyone
yeah,
would question usually my wife, right? So she would, what did you drink today? No. And I would get really loud about it, right? Like, almost like, like,
mhm,
no, I didn't know. I didn't. How can you do
mhm,
this to me? Like, really reverse psychology, kind of sociopathic tendencies
mhm,
that I was
yeah.
demonstrating to her. It's
Well, it's
just
the
so
last thing
sad.
we wanna hear. It's the last thing we wanna hear, and we don't wanna be called out on anything, right?
Yeah. Were you finding any relief when you were drinking? I mean, when I was at the worst of my alcoholism, like, it was no longer a functioning thing. It was like, I just need, I don't know, it in my body now, not even to feel like the
Feel
effects of it
normal.
anymore, just to feel normal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I just needed it to feel normal. Like, it wasn't
Hmm.
I wasn't getting drunk. I was just, like, getting to a point where I didn't feel like I was gonna be shaking and anxious, but the anxiety stuff was, like, I'd stopped, like, going to stores. I had my husband at the time doing that. Driving, he would drive us everywhere regardless of, well, I've probably always had some alcohol in my system anyway, so it's probably a good thing. I stopped going to, like, certain medical appointments, right? Like, I really started to pull back because everything felt like too much, like, and I didn't wanna, like, run into people and see me buying
Hmm.
alcohol. That was another one,
Yes.
because
Yep. Yep.
yeah, so there was a whole bunch of different things, but the difference I think for you and I is my partner actually said to me, would continually say to me, "You're not an alcoholic."
Huh.
So
God.
it helped me, right, to stay in
Yeah.
my
Just, yeah.
pattern. I'm not saying it's that person's fault in any way,
Right.
but they
Right.
would be like, "You can sober up. You're fine, or you don't drink as much as I've seen other people." But I certainly was. So
Yeah.
my family would point out numerous times over the years that I drank too much. But my partner, who I was married to, was in support of me and saying, "You don't have a problem." And so that was my, like, number one person, right? So I really took that because, again, as an alcoholic, you're going to take
You'll
the
take anything
answers
you
you
can get.
want,
Yeah. Yeah. If
right?
anyone gives you an
Yeah.
inch, right,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't hitting too many, tensions with people because I was self-isolating in my own home too, right?
Right. Yeah. I wasn't going out either. I was doing the same thing. I was isolating all night, just drinking just copious amounts constantly, just drinking, falling asleep, drinking, falling asleep, not knowing what time of day it
Yes.
was. Once COVID hit, especially, and I was teaching, and I was doing it all online, it would just get earlier and earlier and earlier in the day.
Yes.
But I was just like you. I would not drink at work. Once the bell rang, I was sober Will, Mr. Gordon time, right? But once 2:30 hit, that bell rang, you better believe I was one of the first people to run to my car to get my bottle under my golf bag and drink, like, literally,
Yeah.
like, probably like a half a Poland Spring, just to make the shakes dissipate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say too, like, it got to a point where I'd be going to visit, like, my parents stopped keeping as much booze in their house. So we'd be going over to visit them, and I would be packing alcohol, like Mickey's of, you know what
Right.
I mean, in my bag so I could run back to my room and drink because they weren't putting out enough alcohol on the table, but I
Crazy.
needed it,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, I would do the same
Yeah.
thing. I would run into my car, grab it, just take, like, a big chug, like, almost like the whole bottle, and just walk
Yeah.
back in casually, and then just nurse my beer the entire, like, function. Just,
Yeah.
wow, look at Will. He only had one beer the whole time, and I'm wasted. Like, I'm wasted up here, but, like, my body,
Yes.
I'm just kinda like, that kind of thing. So I never, because I was
Absolutely.
just like you. I was just like you. I didn't want to piss anyone off. I didn't want anyone to know about my alcoholism, because then they're going to take it away from me. I can't have that. But at the same time, I'm
Yeah.
also, like, being strategic, and I'm very, very cautious about every single person, whether their gaze, if they're looking at how much is in my cup, like all that stuff is all so obvious. It's like hyper obvious to us.
Yes. Oh, that's so similar to me. It's
Yeah,
wild. Yeah.
it is wild. So tell me about when you heard about the news, when they told you you had liver cirrhosis, like walk me through that.
Okay. So I'm such a stubborn person. So I decided we were going to go into the hospital, and my partner took me, I think. See, it's funny. My memory, I don't know why I black things out. I have this weird thing. And then sometimes it'll come back to me later. But between my ex and my mother, they took me in, and I believe he did the first shift. And then I'm in Canada. So we are, our healthcare system is covered under our tax system, right? So it's
Hmm.
free. And but our wait times can be horrendous. So
I've heard.
I forget what time my mom dropped me off. And then we waited and waited and waited. And I had basically, they had social workers coming in. I don't know how many doctors talking to me, questioning me about my drinking, right? And I was still not giving the full truth, even though I was in there looking like Homer Simpson yellow. Like
Hmm.
I was still not giving, I was telling them I was drinking, but I was not telling them how bad it was. And my liver enzymes were off the charts from the one that the doctor had seen.
That's like
And
your
the worst
ALT,
one,
AST, those things. Yeah, those are
yeah,
your
and my
liver enzymes.
bilirubin was 10
Mm.
times
Would
what
you?
it should be.
Wow.
10
Was it
times.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
that's.
and that took 999 days to get into normal range for me.
Did
That's how
everyone
long it
just hear
took.
that? Did everyone just hear that? 991 days just to go
900.
to revert 999. So almost 1,000 days
Yeah.
just to revert back to normal liver enzyme
Yeah.
levels.
So I still
Yeah.
had yellow tinge for a lot, because one of the big questions I get is how long did that take for
Hmm.
your jaundice to disappear? I'm like, I don't think this is normal. Most people's can be within 6 months, but for me, it was almost 3 full years basically. And yeah, 1,000 days essentially. That's a lot of patience, a lot of trust, and a lot of belief that things are going to get better, because you can't change that, right? That your body has to heal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they had these numbers, and then they had social workers coming in and asking me questions, and infectious disease specialists and all kinds of people. I'm still not even in a room yet, but they knew they were going to admit me. And these two women came down and talked to me, and they said, we have a problem here because you're really smart and you know all the answers you need to give us to dequalify you as an alcoholic. But we know. And so I said, well, yeah, I am, but I was still lying, right? And so anyways, they ended up admitting me because I was I was in acute liver failure, basically, when I was at the hospital. That's what they deemed. So they kept me for 6 days I was in. And it was in the hospital. I wasn't told I had cirrhosis yet, or like how bad it was. That was through an outreach appointment. But in my discharge reports, it said I had alcohol related liver disease. I was later to find out that I was like end stage cirrhosis when I actually met with my specialist. It was interesting to me because I can tell you that I was in pre-diagnosis. I would look in my mirror once in a while and be like, I wonder how long until my liver goes. Like I
Hmm.
knew I was dying, but I was not in a state to care. Like I didn't care. I was
Yes.
depressed, right?
Yeah.
I had no will to live. And so, but when they told me in the hospital, it felt like the world was falling around me. It felt
Mhm.
like, and they said, if you continue drinking the way you are, you have 2 months left to live. I never took a drink again when I left the hospital. So like that's my sobriety date is April 3rd, right? Yeah, it was devastating. I was in shame. I was in shock because when I got to the hospital to check in, I knew the
Mhm.
state I was in. I honestly felt like I was turning myself into the police. Like, here I am.
Yep.
I've been lying to you for all these years. You got me, and I'm sick. You know what I mean? So I knew that once I went, I was going to have to quit. But I didn't know that I would actually quit and I've stayed sober since, right? Um
Philippa, oh my
so
gosh.
yeah.
That when you just said that part about, I got chills because it hit me so true. Turning yourself, it felt like turning yourself into the police. I was so reluctant. I was every excuse in the book. Nope, I'm fine. Nope, I don't want to go. I don't want to do. Nope, nope, no, 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 no. I'm not going. I'm not going to the hospital. I'm not going to the hospital. I would say it over
Mm.
and over. But there was no more hiding anymore. My eyes were yellow. Um, I am fascinated with. Well, first of all, let me just say congratulations for hearing that news and getting sober. In 2020, I heard that news. I went 3.5 months sober, and I just couldn't hold on any longer, and I went back to drinking, and that's when it inevitably led me to the 2 weeks left of life, and then the liver transplant and all the complications thereafter. But oh man, that is tough. That is tough to hear. How on earth did you reverse it? People are dying to know. How did you do it?
And this is I don't have an answer for because I didn't take any special supplement or do anything abnormal. I literally, I mean, my directions were, no more than 1.5 liters of water, no more than 2 grams of sodium because I had a really bad ascites, which
Yep.
I did have to have drained once.
So you had a
Mediterranean style diet.
paracentesis? Yeah.
I did have one, only one though. I was lucky. Yeah.
That's yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, because
Mediterranean
some people
diet,
have to
yeah.
have them over and over. But yeah, Mediterranean diet, like less animal products. And I just incorporated that, but my numbers did not move. Like my MELD score was a 28.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if your
Goes
listeners
up
know
to
what a
40,
MELD
yeah.
score is.
Yeah, oh, they do.
Yours was 40. That's the highest, right?
It maxes out at 40, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
went in on a 39 and got transplanted the day of at like a 38. So it didn't yeah, it was
Okay.
I was pretty
Yeah.
much dead. Like it was in when I got sick and then my stomach ruptured. That's why I always say 4% chance because I had a 4% chance of surviving that because I just woke up from the transplant and then my stomach burst and I
Yeah.
was on dialysis. Yeah, just all just because of alcoholism and like hiding it and being
Yeah.
ashamed of it and then being shocked to find out that I have cirrhosis. I was just like you. I was like, I can't believe that. Like, no
Yeah.
way. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like such denial. And
Yes.
this is a really interesting part about your story that I find so similar was that it's like you knew what you were doing that entire time, yet where we can't let anyone know and we're so scared of it and we don't know what to do. That's like how it
Mhm.
felt when you were telling me that, because that's how I felt at least. So you reversed it by just time and abstaining from alcohol
Yeah,
and
but
diet.
so I actually what happened for me is, yeah, complete abstinence. All the things the doctor said. The other thing I was doing is, and I tell people this, I was taking like probably 20 supplements, like, oh gosh, lion's mane and papaya enzymes and milk thistle.
Milk
I
thistle,
was
yeah, yeah.
taking so many medications because I was like, "Oh, that's okay. It's gonna counteract the drinking I'm doing." And so also my GI took me off all of that, and he said, "Not even vitamin B, no vitamin K. I want you off everything. We're gonna reset your liver." Right? And so I listened, but it's not like I saw him all the time. You know what I mean? I had
Right,
to take
right.
that direction and follow it. And I joined a anonymous program of sobriety, and I followed that because the alcohol was the biggest thing. My specialist told me actually he would know within about 6 months how depending on how my numbers went, if alcohol was the main culprit. He said I should have a fairly good chance if I can stop drinking. But if I kept drinking 2 months, so I really took that advice. Like, and I really feel like he got real with me, and I really have respect for this man. He saved my life. Like I
You need to
just
hear it.
listened and I did what he said to do. And then he slowly, like I do take just write some regular B vitamin, vitamin K. But what happened was, sorry, I got a little off track there, is about, he said around 18 months. He said, if we're not seeing a good enough shift, then we're going to assess, like put you through the transplant assessment. So not 18 months, but 16 months, I got a call from a resident speaking to me, and I was away on vacation with my sister and my mom and my niece. And she said, your numbers have plateaued. and we're going to start assessing you to see if your body can handle a transplant. And I just broke down.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this can't be happening, because I've been doing
Mm-hmm.
everything I was asked to. I was staying sober, and it was hard because you were seeing minimal decreases, right? Like my bilirubin would down by like 2 every 6 months. And it was just like, again, in Canada, I was at over 100 and I had to get it down to 17 or lower. Right. So anyhow, and then I just thought, you know what? This isn't okay. Like I have been trying so hard. So I did take the first summer off that I've ever taken off in all of my years, because before I was a teacher, I was an educational assistant, so a support worker in classrooms. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always gone back to school or done other work every summer. I took that summer off and I fully rested my body
Mm.
and dug more into my recovery work a little bit. And I came back and had more blood work done in October, and my MELD score had dropped from like a 20 to a 9. And they don't know why. It just was like my body suddenly decided it was ready to heal, and I gave it a full break.
Right. You gave it the
And
break
they
it
were like, "We
needed.
don't need to assess you anymore.
That's
You're not gonna
amazing.
need a transplant." And it was so shocking. Like, I've had some really wild stories. I mean, they were watching some tumors, some lesions on my liver, and I had to have MRIs. The last one, they couldn't see them, so now I'm only doing ultrasound. So there has been some major healing, and they think my next fibroscan is going to show next to normal scarring. And what they just saw in my hospital surgery was a smooth liver. So I'm not doing anything. I'm not selling anything. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's just like
Well, you
I see
remained
it as a higher
abstinent from
power in some
alcohol.
ways.
Yeah,
Sorry?
you stopped drinking completely and you started taking care of yourself and you started doing the
Yeah.
work, the actual work that it takes to be a sober person. And I'm
Yeah.
fascinated with that part. So tell me about that. Like, what was that like to go all that time, all that drinking, basically being put on the liver transplant list because that's how sick you were, but
Yeah.
reversing it. It's just, I mean, like, what was that like?
Uh, it was shocking. Like, it was honestly like the next time I went in to have my follow-up appointment, I had a resident who actually had met me 1 month in, because I showed up at the hospital needing a paracentesis, and I waited till 3 a.m. and he was the GI night doctor that came on, and he prescribed me diuretics. So when I went in, I met with a resident for my follow-up this time, and he's like, "Oh, hi, ma'am," da, 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 going through the motions with me. And I looked at him and I said, "We've met before." And he said, "No, we haven't." And I said, "Yes." I said, "We've met on May 3rd,
Yeah.
2022. Well, look, you prescribed me these diuretics." And he goes in the computer and he looks at me and he started to cry. And he was like, "I didn't think you were going to make it." So I was really sick, right? Like I was in
Yeah.
dire straits. So it's been an emotional ride, is all I can say, of like almost things that seem like impossible just shifting for me, you know? And I have no real explanation other than I've become such a grateful person, and I just want to be able to share
Yeah.
my story and help people.
Sounds a little bit like you're still kind of processing it because it's still really fresh for you.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to
Yeah.
make sense of this whole situation because it's heavy. I know what you're talking about because
Yeah.
I had to go through it. And unfortunately, mine had to continue going longer because of my lack of discipline and I wasn't ready to be a sober person yet. So when you started doing that real hard sober person work, like what was that like
Mm.
for you? Was that a comfortable process? Was that difficult? Was it like you were willing at this point? Like what was that like?
Oh, I was willing. I was super willing. I stopped drinking again. That was before I went into hospital was my last drink. And then the addiction specialist at the hospital suggested that I go to AA, which is a program of recovery. But I did go to that and went through all the motions. Like I needed to drop my ego. My ego was hugely in the way. I thought I could do everything myself. I thought I knew and I could control things, and I had all of these character assets, defects that were in the way. But as soon as it was almost when I checked into the hospital, I was like turning myself in. I was letting go. Like I was, it was, that was my rock bottom, right? And
Yeah.
so I came out ready to start, and I did hire a nutritionist, so she helped me just like figure out some different meal plan things. And then I joined like AA online because I was too anxious to go in person. And then yeah, I got a sponsor and I went through the steps of the program, and I just everything I was told I needed to do, I did. And like I was not an arguer, and like I reached out when I needed the support. I went to meetings, but I didn't do like 90 and 90 days or like 365. I it was a large part of my recovery, but it wasn't the only part. Like I also learned to spend time alone, and I joined Kundalini yoga, and I started to try to get myself out in the community and make connections more. And I listened and I took what I was told and I did the work.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have done that before because I used to blame and find reasons for everything that was going on in my life that didn't tie back to me being the one that was at fault, right? And I just
Hmm.
decided I had to take ownership, right? And that was it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you finally, and you did it, and you did it with like gusto. You did it with reverence. I mean, you did it, you really did it. You listened, you did it, you changed what you were eating, you changed like the whole mindset. You did a whole mindset shift.
Mhm.
What was the hardest part for you? Like once you went sober and you were the sober person and Philippa sober 2.0, like what was the hardest part of that first, say, 3 months of recovery?
First few months, I didn't tell a lot of family members what I was doing. I was
Hmm.
going for treatment, but I didn't really
That's
want to, or treatment, for meetings and recovery,
sure.
but I didn't really want to share how, like I admitted that I had admitted I had a problem. I wasn't ready to admit it to them yet. Obviously now, like, I've got a page, I talk about it all the time,
Right.
been through a process with them, but yeah, I had a hard time even identifying as an alcoholic in my workplace, for example, whereas my work all is very aware now of my history, right? Um, yeah, like I think it was again that shame because I was already in shame before because I was drinking. Now I was in shame because I had an identified problem that I was trying to fix, but I didn't want
Mm.
people to know about that problem still, right?
Hmm.
So there was that again, people pleasing awkwardness that I had to learn to let go of, you know?
Hmm.
But it wasn't easy, and I stayed away from any kind of events that involved alcohol and
Smart.
or, like, triggering events where I might run into somebody that, I would associate with drinking, and I learned to reach out to certain people and just started to shift. But at the same time, I should also mention I was sick, so, like, I could barely stand to make dinner. Like, not to the extent that you were, but, like, I was getting all kinds of medical problems happening too, so I was, like, trying to, like, balance the recovery, but then I had this, like, I guess, like, what's the word? I was holding a bit of a resentment because I also had this extra layer to deal with, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's tough. Those first couple of months are always tricky, especially when you're
yeah,
doing a lifestyle shift. Like you literally changed your entire life. You went from being an everyday drinker, or only not drinking when you're sleeping, just like me, to a person now having to put the real work in, to actually going to meetings, not letting anyone know about it, which is an interesting approach. I feel like yeah, I think I handled it exactly the same. I think I actually handled it. I didn't want really anyone to know about yeah, that part of it. I was just kind of going and I was recovering in silence. Um, but the second I chose to like admit to myself and forgive myself for, 10 straight years of just being a drunk and wasting the 10 years of the prime of my life, it's hard to come to grips with that, but that's why I started my channel, so someone who's 25 whatever or older, whatever is better, you can get sober. It's as simple as listening to the doctors, making better choices, and loving yourself enough to want to care to change.
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What's life like right now for you? Like, give us an update with what's going on and everything.
It's good. So I just had a gallbladder removal, and it was interesting because it actually for a long
Like,
time, they've known I had gallstones because I get these abdominal ultrasounds and MRIs all the time. But when I was first diagnosed, if they wanted to, they basically said I had a gallbladder that was full of sludge and stones and that I sparkled from the inside out. It was a joke my doctors made, right? So they're like, so we're just going to monitor. It
interesting
shouldn't be
joke.
any problem. So, okay, sure, whatever. I know I have this problem, but doctors say it's okay. And that's another thing I've really learned in recovery is to not sit and dwell on possibilities of problems that could happen
Mm,
because you could be worrying about something that is non-existent in the future, you know?
absolutely.
So I really did take that as okay, they're there, whatever. But then just this last week, I had some stomach pain. I ended up in the emergency and I had to have two surgeries. Um, I had to have gallstones removed and then I had to have my whole gallbladder removed. And it turns out, like when I think back to how I used to be versus how I am now, like I used to not go get checked for treatments. I would just be like, I'm fine, it's okay, or I don't want to deal with the doctors. But I have really become a self advocate for my health now. And I just knew
Good.
something was wrong. So I think that I've learned to really be my own self advocate and not like I still have a people pleasing tendency, but it's gotten better. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that people
yeah,
pleasing part, I don't know if that's ever going to go away for us. I'm sorry.
I
I think
know.
we're stuck with it.
Yeah.
I think we're stuck with it. But
Yeah.
at the other, on the other end of it, we can use that skill to want to help others, and that's what we're doing now, right? We're using the people pleasing in a different way now, a serving way instead of like a self
Yes.
serving way, right? Well, this
Yes.
has just been just a fascinating conversation. I'm so happy that you're doing better. I'm so impressed with how you just took that prognosis when you took it and you took that pain and you made it into purpose and then you started to help others and talk about your story and what you're doing right now coming on the show telling everyone out there and getting your labs
Right.
done, not arguing with the doctors, not trying to get second opinion, just listen, change your diet, drink lots of water,
Mhm.
stop drinking alcohol first and foremost. That's just the thing that's
Yeah,
going to
and get
save your
real with
life.
yourself. Honestly, like a lot of us, we place the blame, we find other reasons, we adapt the situation to make the drinking problem work and normalize it. And the more you do that, the deeper in you get, right?
That's true. The deeper in you
Yeah.
get. So, Philippa, is there anything else you want to mention before we jump off the show?
I don't think so. There's a couple of other stories in my story. Like I have
Yeah. Do you want
epilepsy and I've had psychosis, but I feel like it's going to be a whole nother.
well, I actually, as we were talking and as you were telling me your story, there were so many things I was just like kind of jotting down notes, like, oh, I can talk about this, because there's so much to our stories that are so similar. So we could definitely do like a
Yes.
whole other hour. Um, but this has just been a fascinating conversation. I know people are going to get a ton of helpful information out of this. Please, everyone, watch what you're doing. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Take care of you. Like, show yourself some compassion, some love, some empathy. We're on this planet for a very short amount of time, and it's such a blessing to be here. So let's take it don't take it for granted. And let's actually show up for our lives instead of running away from it. So Philippa, if people want to reach out to you, get a hold of you, ask you a question, whatever, what's the best places to reach you?
So I would say my Instagram is at Pippa Amelia 9. So PIPPAEMILIA 9. I do have a Facebook and a TikTok, but if I'm honest, I don't really check them that often. So I can link them on my Instagram page or something like that so
Yeah.
people can see them. Yeah, but I actively post on Instagram and I honestly answer every single DM. I am not here to charge money. I just want to help people. Just
Yeah.
really, when I first got my diagnosis, felt so alone and so scared. But just having somebody to reach out to and talk to, just know that like I am somebody that's here and I have compassion and I'm willing to talk to you if you need anything. So,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Philippa, for coming on the show. And you're so courageous and brave for sharing your story and being ready to do it and doing it on the Willpower podcast. It just warms my heart because we've both been through something very traumatic. And I'm so glad that you're taking that pain and using it to purpose now. So thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to Philippa or reach out to me. Guys, I sober mentor. If you are curious about that, you can click on my Calendly link in my bio on my YouTube page. And also, I'm on TikTok now. It's at Will Gordon Sober. I changed it up. And yes, guys, please like, subscribe, and be on the lookout for many, many more episodes coming soon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, everybody.